Since the Chinese Communist Party took control of East Turkistan in 1949, the Uyghurs have consistently faced political oppression. In the early 1950s, the Chinese government launched the Democratic Reform Campaign to eradicate feudalism and promote communism throughout the country, including East Turkestan. The campaign involved various measures such as land reforms, which resulted in the confiscation of Uyghur-owned lands. Additionally, political purges were carried out, targeting Uyghur elites and undermining the Uyghur autonomy. We must highlight the rebellious leader Osman Batur, who fought against the Chinese and Russian invaders, aiming to liberate East Turkestan. In 1951, he was arrested and executed by the Chinese government. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the Chinese government launched the Great Leap Forward campaign to propel China into a modern socialist society. However, the campaign led to widespread famine throughout China, severely affecting East Turkestan. The people of East Turkestan, already marginalized by the government, endured immense hardships during this period, while hundreds and thousands dying from starvation. In 1954, the Chinese government initiated a significant demographic change in East Turkestan by relocating millions of demobilized Chinese soldiers and their families to the region and creating a Bingtuan, a Chinese paramilitary force to colonize and control East Turkestan. On October 1, 1955, the Chinese government renamed East Turkestan as the so-called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. This renaming was accompanied by changes in administrative structure and policy, which further marginalized the Uyghur population and undermined their autonomy. In 1962, more than 60,000 Uyghurs and Kazakhs fled East Turkestan into the Soviet Union for a better life. The border remained open temporarily, allowing for the movement of people. However, the Chinese government subsequently closed the border, preventing further migration. Many Uyghurs and Kazakhs took to the streets and protested against this closure, and the Chinese Red Army opened fire and killed at least several hundred people. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, the Chinese government launched the Cultural Revolution, attempting to eliminate capitalist and traditional elements in Chinese society. The campaign resulted in the destruction of many Uyghur cultural sites, including mosques, shrines, and other cultural heritages. Thousands of Uyghur intellectuals, professionals, and elites were sent to labor camps or prisons and sentenced to death, labeled as nationalists and counter-revolutionists. Furthermore, between 1964 and 1996, China conducted more than 40 nuclear detonations in Lucknow, resulting in significant radiation exposure, causing the death of several 100,000 people. The Uyghur script was forcibly changed multiple times by the Chinese Communist Party, from Arabic to Cyrillic, then to Latin, in the 1950s and 1960s, and then back to modified Arabic script in the early 1980s. These imposed reforms brought severe ideological, cultural, and psychological damage and trauma to the Uyghurs, undermining the Uyghur cultural identity. In the 1980s, China initiated economic reforms and opened up its economy, with the Uyghur homeland playing a crucial role as a gateway to Russia and Central Asia. However, such economic development came with increased political repression, as the government aimed to suppress the growing aspirations of the Uyghurs for greater autonomy and human rights. On December 12, 1985 in Urumqi, over 20,000 university students protested against nuclear testing, forced abortion, and the migration of Chinese settlers into East Turkestan. The Chinese government violently suppressed them, leading to hundreds of deaths and thousands of arrests. Similarly, on June 15, 1989, thousands of students in Urumqi held a peaceful demonstration against similar issues, but were brutally massacred by Chinese military force. In the late 1990s, the Chinese government started to claim that Uyghur separatist movements were on the rise and further strengthened its control of East Turkestan.